Concrete jungles, an ordinary Korean neighborhood from above. Dim light barely penetrates his semi-basement room. The game is frozen on the monitor, evidence of a sleepless night. He fell asleep on the floor, leaving the computer on. The smartphone alarm mercilessly shows 7:05 a.m. The guy slowly comes to his senses. Playing games all night again. Thoughts overwhelm him. I should just quit this damn school. Wearing glasses with messy hair, he stumbles to the kitchen. A note from his mom on the wall, eat and off to school. His face reflects the full weight and reluctance to start the day. In school uniform with a backpack, he reluctantly leaves the house. His gaze is drawn to the elite residential complex contrasting with his neighborhood. Palace 104, a symbol of a life unattainable for him. A bitter thought, they can't even imagine how I live. He walks down the street and the inscription, "You smell like poverty," foreshadows a hard day. There it is, Songun High School, the place of his daily torment. Before he even enters, he's already falling to the floor with a quiet curse. Bullies mockingly apologize, enjoying his humiliation. The main bully turns around. Wait, did you say something? Park Sonbin, 18 years old, decides it's time to remind this loser of his place. A displeased voice sounds in the corridor. Ugh, why so noisy? Han Yena appears, ordering Park Sonbin to stop the bullying. Han Yena, 18 years old, star of class 2 to 3, finds this scene disgusting. Sonbin justifies himself, saying they're just playing with the class mascot. Min-jun adjusts his glasses, thinking Yena hates him too, though she doesn't hit him. A friend calls Yena to a meeting, but she recalls an unpleasant visit to Min-jun's home. Min-jun knows Yena lives in that very elite palace complex. She is a social media queen, active on TalkTalk and Instagram. Moreover, Han Yena is an honor student, the best in academics. Rumor has it she plans to study in the USA next year. She seems perfect, without a single flaw. But there is one but. She despises poor people and losers like me with all her heart. It all started back in 8th grade when they studied together. Back then, Min-jun gathered courage and tried to talk to her. Her cold look did not bode well. You kind of smell, she said, don't follow me. That was the first time he understood. Han Yena despises him. And that, according to her, he gives off a smell of poverty. Now in high school, they sit at the same desk, much to her obvious displeasure. Despite her contempt, Min-jun is still unsure about his feelings for her. The irony of fate, to have feelings for someone who constantly humiliates you. Since Sonbin beat him and Yena crushed him morally, every day is pure suffering. His life now seems shameful and humiliating. School again, the arena of his daily torment. Friends discuss anime, but Min-jun remembers the Rage Z gaming event. If it weren't for school, we could have gone in the morning, complains a friend. Bae Sun-ho and Oh Byung-jun are the only friends lucky with classmates. He's invited to a concert, but he thinks they were just lucky to be born fortunate. Jung Min-jun, a voice calls out while he reflects on his worthless life. Huh? Min-jun looks up surprised at his friend's call. A friend excitedly shows Min-jun a photo of an idol. Are you going to Lumina's concert? On the phone screen, Jian, the star his friends are going to support. Min-jun forces a smile. Nah, I don't care about idols anymore, he says, leaving his friends puzzled. He used to be a hardcore fan. Today he's completely lifeless, friends note. One suggests, maybe because of rumors about Jian's relationship? Min-jun walks away. In class, sitting at the same desk with Yena, Min-jun sits with his head down. I wish this school day would end soon, runs through his mind. Behind him, bullies discuss some Kang Hakchul who was staring at them. Damn Kami abandoned his parents in North Korea, they slander, and Min-jun listens. At the door appears the very Kang Hakchul, having heard the insults. Kang Hakchul, 18 years old, student of class 2-3, coldly asks, What did you just say? Sonbin boldly replies, What, you got a problem, bastard? Hakchul warns, Don't speak recklessly, but Sonbin immediately grabs him by the collar, shouting. Sonbin's hands crush Hakchul's jacket. Tension rises. Sonbin's friends try to separate them. Sonbin, calm down. Hakchul, sorry about this. Sonbin hisses to Hakchul. You made it to the south. If you don't want to die, sit quietly at school. The bullies leave, leaving Hakchul standing in the corridor. Min-jun, who watched the scene, nervously swallows. Sweat rolls down his cheek. Sitting at his desk, Min-jun thinks, this lousy class, this lousy school. The sun illuminates the school building, the place of Min-jun's daily torment. Min-jun decides, yeah, starting tomorrow I'm quitting this damn school. With grim determination, he thinks, I will never come back here again. A sudden shout, "Hey!" makes him flinch, eyes wide open. Turning around, Min-jun sees three upperclassmen blocking his way. One of them smirks, "Perfect timing! I need cigarettes, help me out." The bully orders Min-jun to ask an old lady to buy them cigarettes at the store. "Damn little bastard!" Min-jun fumes, but immediately remembers. "I'm quitting school anyway. I'll never see that freak again. Wish I could tell him off at least once." Flashes a thought. But Min-jun, as always, leaves silently, and the bully shouts, "Hey! Young Min-jun! Not coming? Ignoring me?" The bullies are shocked. Min-jun rebelled, Sanbin is being completely ignored. Min-jun turns onto a sunlit construction site. He is already lying on the ground, beaten, and Sanbin asks, "Are you crazy? What's wrong with you today?" Sanbin swings a brick. "You pathetic trash. Maybe I should finish you off today?" His friends watch. One mutters, "I tried to stop Sanbin. If Min-jun dies, it's not my fault." Min-jun whispers, "Kill me." Sanbin looks at him in confusion. "Just kill me already. I don't want to live," repeats Min-jun lying on the ground. One of the bullies notes, "This is kind of sad, Sanbin." Sanbin's eyes widen. Enraged, Sanbin shouts, "You bastard!" and kicks him. Leaning down, Sanbin hisses, "Listen carefully. If you write my name in your suicide note, be ready." Sanbin, with a mad look, threatens, "And after your death, I'll track down and kill your mother." Min-jun's broken glasses lie on the ground. The bullies are shocked by the cruelty, but Sanbin orders them to leave. Min-jun remains lying alone, beaten, on the dusty construction site. The sun lights up the city rooftops, contrasting with the darkness in Min-jun's soul. With his last strength, Min-jun staggers through a deserted alley, climbing stairs. With a backpack on his back, he thinks, "I wish the world would just end tomorrow." His feet heavily step on the stairs. Each step echoes with pain. Turning around with a battered face, he looks up and thinks, maybe it's better to just die. His gaze fixes on a tall building. If I fall from there, it will all be over. He walks on the roof, deciding, nothing matters anymore. I have no reason to live this pathetic life. Min-jun, with his backpack, resolutely walks on the roof, back to the viewer. A sudden shout, "Hey!" makes him turn around. A girl stands before him, asking what he is doing here. She clarifies, "This isn't your house, right? Did you sneak in here?" "You don't look like a delivery guy. Are you trying to steal something?" She looks suspiciously at his bruised face. Min-jun, clenching his fist, grimly replies, "I came here to die in your house." The girl notices his wounds. "What happened to your face?" Looking closely at the fresh scrapes, she asks directly, "Did someone beat you?" "Seriously, you're so annoying," she says. "If people like Park Sanbin mess with you, at least fight back." She continues, "People like you are pathetic. Aren't you disgusted living like this?" Min-jun silently turns and leaves, leaving the girl puzzled. "What the hell? You're leaving?" The girl shouts after Min-jun, "Hey, are you crazy, ignoring me?" She sighs, thinking, but he really is pathetic. So weak. Min-jun leaves, and the girl decides, tomorrow I'll definitely scold that bastard Sanbin. Min-jun enters his small, cluttered room. He reaches for the computer, muttering, maybe I'll play. Putting on headphones, Min-jun touches a scrape. I can't believe it. I changed my mind about dying because of Han Yena. Remembering her face, he admits, actually, she was right. Sitting at the game, he thinks, I quit school. I won't see Sanbin or Han Yena anymore. A voice from the game urges, "Oh, Min-jun, you're back! Come in quickly, we're waiting!" But he thinks about helping his mom.
Evening comes. The light from the boys' room slightly illuminates the street.
Suddenly, outside come screams of horror. Ah, what the hell? Min-jun continues playing, his hand confidently on the keyboard. In the game, he shoots zombies. A teammate shouts, "Wrong way, there are 3 here." And Min-jun replies, "Okay, all clear." Suddenly, Min-jun speaks into the mic. "Guys, I urgently need to step away," causing surprise among teammates. Another player, Byung-jun, also decides to leave. Min-jun wonders, what the hell, even Byung-jun? Min-jun looks at the wall clock. What time is it? 10? Already so late? A teammate asks, "What's going on? Did you see the news? It's total chaos." Min-jun doesn't understand. Huh? What news? A strange sound outside makes Min-jun sharply turn away from the monitor. He takes off his headphones, listening anxiously. What is that? Min-jun stands and cautiously peeks from his room into the corridor. Min-jun approaches the door, muttering, What? Who's there? A dull knock sounds again behind the door. The locks look secure. Anxiety shows on Min-jun's face. Who the hell could that be? Creepy. He carefully presses to the peephole, peering into the darkness. In the peephole, he sees the upstairs neighbor whispering, Help! Min-jun is surprised. Oh, open, comes from outside, and Min-jun thinks, Huh? The delivery guy got the floor wrong again? Behind the door, the neighbor leans against the frame and bloody footprints are visible on the stairs. Min-jun thinks with annoyance, Damn, this guy got drunk again. Despite his fears, his hand reaches for the door handle. Min-jun opens the door, and before him appears a blood-soaked corridor. Min-jun slightly opens the door, his face still bruised, and sees something shocking. His eyes widen in horror. He can't believe what he sees. Huh? Before him stands the neighbor, covered in blood, barely standing. A close-up shows gruesome wounds on the neighbor's blood-soaked body. Min-jun panics and asks, Sir, are you okay? Should I call 911? Suddenly, the neighbor lets out a wild scream. His eyes roll back, turning white. The man lunges at Min-jun, who screams in surprise and pain. The neighbor's face twists with rage, his eyes bloodshot, and he continues shouting. Min-jun screams in horror. Sir, what are you doing, sir? Pure fear reflects in Min-jun's eyes. Damn, seriously? Instinctively, Min-jun kicks the crazed neighbor away. The neighbor falls to the floor, and the boy retreats into the apartment. He frantically slams the door shut and turns the lock. Min-jun breathes heavily, leaning against the door. A growl is heard outside. Drops of blood lie on the floor by his bare feet. His knees tremble. What was that? He thinks, recalling the neighbor's distorted face. Min-jun rushes to the table, grabbing his phone. Police! I need to call the police! He hurriedly dials, but hears only silence on the line. Phone completely dead? Min-jun looks at the screen in despair. Suddenly, emergency alerts about terrorist attacks pop up on the screen. Min-jun stares stunned at the phone screen with emergency messages. He rushes to the window, looking outside in horror. Outside unfolds a bloody massacre. People scream for help in panic. Min-jun realizes the neighbor's attack is part of something bigger, recalling his face. Stepping back from the window, he anxiously thinks, Mom, is she okay? With a trembling hand, he tries to call his mom. A tear rolls down his cheek. Close-up phone pressed to his ear, Min-jun whispers, Please. Despair fills his eyes. His mom's phone doesn't answer either. Outside, under his window, light illuminates troubling drops of blood on the asphalt. The light goes out, darkness falls. Min-jun hides in his room, wrapped in a blanket by the door. He shivers with fear, curling under the blanket in the dark. With a trembling hand, he turns on his phone. The screen glows brightly. Internet and mobile service are down. A connection error appears on the screen. Still bruised, Min-jun cautiously takes the TV remote. He turns on the news at low volume, fearing noise. The announcer reports mass killings and an ongoing terror investigation. Terror attack? What's happening? Min-jun listens in horror to the call to stay home. Breaking news. Killings now in Busan, too. Footage of the attack appears on screen. A blurry shot shows one person fiercely biting another. The announcer reports violence spreading to major cities. Military overwhelmed. Min-jun thinks, this doesn't look like a terror attack. He sits horrified, the room dimly lit. Could it be zombies? Am I dreaming? Panic reflects in his eyes. Is the world collapsing so fast? From Seoul to Busan in one day? But why? Min-jun stands resolutely. Enough sitting idle. That guy upstairs went outside. He approaches the apartment door. If no one's on the stair, I'll lock the main door first. Min-jun cautiously peeks into the entrance. Pools of blood on the stairs. No one. He nervously looks up the stairs, sweating. Could someone be upstairs? His hand rests on the handle of the main entrance door, preparing to open it. Min-jun carefully looks outside and sees the bloodied neighbor leaving the building. The neighbor, covered in blood, slowly turns his head as Min-jun freezes in the doorway. The bloodied neighbor slowly moves away from the building. Min-jun stands frozen in the doorway. Min-jun slams the main entrance door shut and turns the lock sharply. He stands on the stairs, breathing heavily. Blood on the steps reminds him of the horror. Min-jun looks up, thinking, neighbors upstairs, are they safe? Creepy silence. He decides to return home. I'll wait until morning. Police or someone will come to help. Back in his room, Min-jun sits on the bed, covered up, watching the news. The announcer continues reporting the emergency. A map of Korea appears on screen. Suddenly, the TV screen goes dark. The broadcast cuts off. Min-jun is in despair. A drop of sweat runs down his face. Even the broadcast went off. He lies on the bed, completely covered with a blanket, immersed in darkness and fear. Min-jun lies in bed but cannot sleep. I can't fall asleep. He feels strange, something more than just insomnia. Min-jun recalls how just yesterday he dreamed of death and the end of the world. And now I'm desperately fighting for life, runs through his mind. He thinks maybe nothing has really changed. Then and now, my world is still hell, Min-jun realizes. Morning. Outside the window unfolds a terrible scene. An overturned ambulance, bodies, and chaos. Blood splatters on the floor near the slightly open entrance door. Min-jun, with a bandage on his cheek, cautiously peeks from behind the door. The street swarms with infected everywhere, signs of brutal slaughter. The air feels alien and wrong, everywhere traces of carnage. The smell of blood lingers in the air. A discarded slipper and splashes lie on the asphalt. Min-jun peeks out. The atmosphere outside screams danger. He locks the front door. Bloodstains are visible even from here. Min-jun decides going out now is suicide. He inspects his food supplies, starting with shelves of ramen. Min-jun counts noodles, rice, some water. Enough for the first period. Food should last a month. Someone will definitely come to help, he thinks. But his main worry is his mom. I hope she's okay. The phone remains useless. I'm completely cut off from the world. Despair overwhelms Min-jun. Min-jun reflects. There are 5 apartments in the building. The neighbor upstairs turned into that. He remembers the student living in the attic on the roof. He usually brings a girl on Tuesdays, flashes a memory. And yesterday was Tuesday. Maybe he's still up there on the roof, dawns on Min-jun. Min-jun cautiously steps up the stairs in slippers, heading upstairs. He listens at other apartment doors. No sounds, silence. The guy from the roof. I hope he's not like that man, Min-jun thinks as he climbs. With determination, he continues his way up the stairs. The door to the roof? Was it left ajar? Min-jun steps onto the roof through the unlocked door, looking around. Min-jun hesitates on the roof. Call out? No, better not, just in case. He notices slippers by the attic door. What the? The inner door is open too. Min-jun cautiously peeks inside the student's room. Inside is a mess. An overturned fan, scattered things, and bloodstains. He nervously looks around. No one. His eyes widen at what he sees. He freezes. Huh? The inscription, Day 2 of the catastrophe beginning, against bloody traces on the floor. In the room lie the bodies of the student and his girlfriend. Min-jun, horrified, realizes, this day will be a turning point in my life. He steps over the threshold, deciding to enter. Understood. Min-jun finds himself in the student's attic. Let's get out of here quietly. Min-jun notices a flower pot at the edge of the roof as he is about to leave. Suddenly, the pot falls and crashes into pieces with a loud noise. What the hell? Min-jun turns around in horror at the growl behind him. He screams and runs away from the attic door. A slipper flies off Min-jun's foot as he stumbles. Min-jun falls onto the roof floor, losing his balance. With a face distorted by fear, he looks at the approaching threat. A bloodied zombie student advances on him from the doorway. The infected lunges at Min-jun in the middle of the roof, dumbbells visible nearby. Min-jun instinctively covers himself with his hands as the monster reaches him. The monster loses balance, tumbling over the edge of the roof. Min-jun throws his hands up as the student's body flies over him. From above, you can see the infected falling down while Min-jun remains on the roof. Stunned, Min-jun turns around, unable to believe his eyes. Horror freezes in his eyes from what just happened. He fell! Min-jun sits on the roof, realizing what occurred. Without wasting a second, he rushes to the door leading off the roof. Gasping, Min-jun runs barefoot down the stairs. He reaches his apartment, trembling hand grasping the handle. Bursting inside, Min-jun falls to his knees, barely catching his breath. Min-jun is on the floor, drops of blood on his clothes reminding him of what happened. His face twisted in horror. The guy from the roof, he's dead, right? Min-jun's gaze freezes, a terrifying thought piercing him. Did I kill him? He tries to justify himself, trembling all over. No, it wasn't me. Not my fault. Min-jun alone in his room repeating, "He attacked first." Later, he sits curled up in a corner, the room plunged into darkness. "That day," his face in shadow, "I was tormented by guilt all day." He can't shake the thought. Could I really be responsible for his fall? Min-jun stands in the middle of a nighttime alley strewn with bodies and sees another infected. A mutilated figure slowly staggers away, leaving a bloody trail. A bloodied zombie student stands in the alley, unnaturally tilting his head. Min-jun stares motionless at the living dead standing before him, his eyes wide with terror, patches and a drop of sweat on his face. The guy from the roof is alive. The thought flashes as it emits a guttural growl. Min-jun realizes they are no longer human. "Sorry, buddy," he thinks. "They're just like zombies." The double doors at the end of the alley remain tightly closed. Since that day, the infected staggers toward the doors, my fear of them began to fade. The next day, 3 days after the disaster began, the city looks deceptively calm. Min-jun prepares food. Something like stew is simmering in the pot. Min-jun eats in his room, thinking, "I can eat like this until the gas is cut off. I wonder when that will happen." He wonders, is it right to wait endlessly for rescue in this semi-basement apartment? The food will run out anyway. Min-jun thinks, besides the guy from the roof, no other infected have been seen. Maybe I should go up again? To call for help, I need to light a fire on the roof. Determination flashes in his eyes behind his glasses. Looking at the barricaded window, he decides, looks like I'll have to go outside tomorrow. He recalls, maybe because I was already ready to give up on life a few days ago, scenes of his despair and struggle. Or because of the encounter with the zombie student. Or maybe because of what happened yesterday and the day before. I don't know why. Min-jun continues eating, realizing, but now even these zombie-like people don't seem especially scary anymore. Suddenly his face changes, reflecting surprise. An incoming call appears on the phone screen. "Mom! Hello? Mom!" Min-jun answers in shock as his mother yells into the phone asking where he is. "I'm hiding alone at home," he answers, learning that his mom is in a shelter and asking him not to go out. Mom promises to send rescuers, but the connection starts breaking up when she mentions Seoul. "Mom?" Min-jun looks at the phone in despair. The connection is lost. Damn, dropped again. He lowers the phone, but is glad that Mom is at least safe. Suddenly, messages appear on the phone screen, surprising Min-jun. They are messages from friends Sunho and Byung-jun. They are also alive and even joking. Min-jun thinks, friends live nearby, but only they and Mom have contacted him. His gaze becomes serious. He is deep in thought about something. Suddenly, he remembers her, Han Yena. Min-jun recalls, she's the closest acquaintance, and by the way, Yena was here last year. Memory. Snacks on the table. A friend assures, Han Yena saw you on Insta and asked to be introduced. The guys in the room discuss Yena's arrival, her fussiness, and her cool photos. One friend smirks and suggests setting Yena up with Changmin, doubting success. Min-jun is nervous about his girlfriend, but then a message arrives. "Oh, Yena wrote." Surprised, Min-jun can't believe it. "She's really coming. I'll meet her." Han Yena appears in the doorway, a slender girl in short shorts and a top. Close-up of her face, she looks a bit confused or embarrassed. Yena enters the room. The guys are already waiting for her. One says, "Come in. Min-jun's place isn't bad, right?" Her bare feet step on the floor as a friend introduces her to Changmin. "You know each other from Instagram, right?" Memory. Min-jun is downcast while friends wonder why he leaves soon after arriving. Yena looks disdainfully around his apartment, complaining about the mess and smell, humiliating Min-jun. Present time. Min-jun sits in the bathroom, suddenly remembering Yena. I wonder if she's okay. He thinks, her father is a hospital director. Maybe he knows how to fight the virus. But why am I thinking about her? Min-jun tries to calm himself. They're rich, surely they managed to evacuate safely. Suddenly his eyes widen in horror. Someone calls, Jung Min-jun. He sharply turns around, still sitting on the toilet, staring at the bathroom door. Just now, he thinks, did someone call me from outside, or did I imagine it? A voice outside pleads, Min-jun, are you there? Please open, hurry! Min-jun freezes in shock, the patches on his face emphasizing the tension of the moment. Min-jun is stunned. Could it really be Han Yena calling his name? Outside by the barricaded window, an uncertain voice says, Jung Min-jun? Yena crouches by the window begging, "You're inside, right? I heard your voice." Suddenly her face distorts with horror as a growl sounds behind her. The alley swarms with infected blood and chaos everywhere. Yena panics and looks around. Zombies are very close to her now. A desperate knock on the apartment door. "Jung Min-jun!" Yena shouts. "Quick, please open the door. Respond if you're there." Her voice trembles. Still in shock, Min-jun flings open the double doors, seeing Yena. With a face twisted by fear, he shouts to her, "Hurry, come in!" Yena rushes inside. Min-jun quickly slams the door behind her. Outside, the infected are already scratching at the door, leaving bloody marks. Yena breathes heavily, sweat dripping down her face, lips parted. Exhausted, she sinks to the floor with her back to Min-jun, who watches her. Her bare, dirty feet lie motionless on the floor of his apartment. "Are you okay?" Min-jun asks. "But why did you come here?" Suddenly, Yena grabs his t-shirt sharply, clinging to him. She presses her whole body against him. Min-jun is stunned by her actions. Her hand with red nail polish tightly grips the fabric of his t-shirt. Min-jun is in complete shock, eyes wide, not understanding what is happening. Yena hugs Min-jun tightly. He is stunned and confused by what is happening. The whole room is visible as Yena seeks comfort in his arms by the door. Min-jun, still confused, anxiously asks Yena if she is okay. Her hand with red nail polish clutches his clothes convulsively, revealing the horror she endured. Yena pulls back slightly, sweat drops on her face, and thanks Min-jun. She admits that without his help, she wouldn't have survived. Min-jun listens with wide eyes. Min-jun breathes a sigh of relief, glad that Yena is at least safe now. Yena looks intently at him, her gaze full of lived emotions and gratitude. Looking around the barricaded room, Yena asks if anyone else is here. Min-jun explains that his mom evacuated with the military and is now safe. Yena listens calmly to Min-jun's story. She breathes a sigh of relief upon learning that his mom is safe. Min-jun asks about Yena's parents. Yena talks about her last conversation with her father. She hopes her parents are okay. Yena asks Min-jun for some water. Min-jun agrees, pointing to the bottles. Yena drinks the water greedily. The guy is concerned about the amount of water she drinks. He worries about the water supplies in the apartment. Min-jun wonders, "But why exactly to my home?" Yena admits, "I was hiding outside all this time." The guy is shocked. She begins her story. 3 days ago, the day I ran into you near our house. Memory. Yena briefly leaves the house, walking down the street, looking at her phone. Suddenly she flinches at a piercing scream. Panic on the street. People scream in terror and scatter. Trying to escape, Yena, gasping for breath, hides on the stairs of the nearest shopping center. "I waited for help, but no one came," says Yena. Min-jun is stunned. "Were you really there alone all this time?" The girl continues. "There was an unlocked door on the stairwell." Behind the door was a small meeting room where she had to hide. Fortunately, there was a bottle of water there. On the third day, thirst and hunger became unbearable, and she had to go outside. She hoped to meet rescuers or police. It was less than a kilometer to my house. The girl reached the alley near the house, Min-jun, and decided to go to him. But she ran into several zombies and decided to bypass them by taking another street. The girl remembered the way to his house well since she had visited before. That's how she ended up in his alley. The girl moved very carefully and quietly along the street so as not to be noticed. She recalls how she avoided the infected. Min-jun is glad Yena made it. The girl notices she was just lucky and is glad Min-jun was home. Getting up, she says her hair got tangled and she was very sweaty. The guy looks at her slightly dirty armpits on her shirt. The girl asks if there is water in the house. Min-jun says there is water and offers her his clothes since hers are very dirty from sweat. The girl is surprised to hear such unpleasant words, though they were true. She kicks Min-jun with her foot, saying that's why he gets beaten at school because of his silly words. The girl is going to take a shower if the guy doesn't mind. Min-jun doesn't mind and is noticeably embarrassed. The girl thanks him. Left alone, Min-jun mutters, "Damn, why did she suddenly hit me and swear?" He sits alone on the floor. The room seems huge against his thoughts. What should I do now? He thinks, since he had planned to leave before her arrival. His gaze falls on the supplies. Food meant for one will now last half as long. Close-up of Min-jun, glasses, bandage, and the full weight of the situation on his face. Han Yena is at my house taking a shower. This is more incredible than a zombie apocalypse, he reflects. Memory. Min-jun walks down the school corridor, lonely and unnoticed. He remembers Yena at school, popular, surrounded by friends. She didn't notice him. That very Han Yena who treated me like a bug runs through his mind. Yena peeks out from the bathroom, interrupting Min-jun's thoughts. She asks to borrow clothes since she's been wearing hers for several days. Min-jun fusses, offering options, and Yena says any will do since he's short. Yena takes a t-shirt and sniffs it doubtfully. Min-jun blushes. Ugh, what a musty smell, she grimaces, asking if there's anything better. Close up. Yena holds the t-shirt disgustedly near her nose. Wearing the t-shirt, she complains about the dampness and says she'll have to endure it. Yena asks for freshener, and Min-jun excuses that the clothes were just washed. How gross, Yena says as she leaves, and Min-jun thinks about her tactlessness. Yena's clean clothes are now drying in Min-jun's apartment. After finishing her food, Yena turns to Min-jun, who looks at her surprised. She asks about their future plans, assuming they will hide and wait for rescue. He admits that before she came, he planned to leave tomorrow, shocking Yena. Yena panics, shouting that she barely made it here and won't go anywhere else, while Min-jun tries to calm her. After thinking, Min-jun agrees that now they'll have to wait for help together. Yena anxiously asks what they will do if the food runs out. They sit in a small room, and Yena's question about food hangs in the air. Min-jun shares his grim plan to look for food in other apartments, mentioning the fading cries of survivors. Yena listens in horror as Min-jun says that if food runs out, they'll have to go outside. Jumping up, Yena categorically refuses to go out, but Min-jun reminds her that she couldn't stay in the shelter either. Yena shouts that he hasn't been outside and doesn't understand how dangerous it is there. Min-jun calmly notes that since she made it, it means it's possible to move around. Yena, with tears in her eyes, reminds him that these people are almost zombies. Min-jun, watching from the window, suggests that infection happens through bites. He indifferently admits that he doesn't care whether he gets infected or not. I have nothing to lose, Min-jun says, looking at Yena. Yena desperately shouts that she wants to live and had plans for her studies. Min-jun tries to calm her, saying she managed to get here unnoticed. He explains that not all infected are aggressive. Some are slow or seem dead. And they run slower than us, concludes Min-jun, reassuring Yena. Min-jun tries to cheer Yena up by asking if she played tag as a child. He suggests imagining dodging the infected as a fun game. Yena sharply cuts him off, calling him crazy and admitting she's very scared. She asks for bedding, showing her well-groomed legs. Yena immediately lies down on the floor, saying she hasn't slept for days and is feeling sleepy. Min-jun, clearly embarrassed, watches her. A drop of sweat runs down his face. He spreads bedding on the floor for her, carefully placing a pillow underneath. Seeing this, Yena indignantly asks if he plans to sleep next to her. She points to a spot by the door, ordering Min-jun to sleep there. Min-jun timidly objects that it's his home and sleeping by the toilet is too much. Yena sighs, agreeing, "All right, I get it." She admits she was wrong as an uninvited guest and offers Min-jun to sleep here and herself by the door. Min-jun panics, stammering that he'd rather sleep on the bloody stairs and wishes her good night. Yena stops him, insisting it's his home and he should sleep comfortably without worrying about her. Min-jun gives in and lies down on the floor by the door, thinking this is a hopeless situation. Close-up of Min-jun. He thinks it would be calmer to sleep alone here, but at least he's in the house. He thinks that thanks to Yena, he is no longer lonely, even though she talks a lot. A lone candle burns in the dark, illuminating a corner of the room. Yena lies on the bed, covered with a blanket, thoughtfully looking at her hands. She grimaces with disgust as if something is bothering her or she had a nightmare. Yena calls Min-jun, peeking out from under the blanket. She asks him to come in and sleep in the room. I'm scared to be alone, Yena admits while Min-jun sits by the door. Lying in bed, she recalls frightening sounds from the stairs. I miss my mom, Yena whispers, closing her eyes. Min-jun sits by the door, arms crossed, lost in his thoughts. Morning. 2 infected wander on the roof of a neighboring building. Bloody traces and figures of infected are visible on the balconies of another building. Yena sleeps soundly, her breathing even and calm. Min-jun looks at sleeping Yena in surprise, wondering how long she will sleep. Min-jun looks at Yena surprised. You said you were scared, but you're sleeping so soundly. Yena wakes up, sits on the bed, and groans sleepily. Fully awake, Yena looks toward the door. She sees Min-jun putting on a sweater and asks where he is going. Min-jun, with bandages on his face, replies that he will check the roof again, shocking Yena. Yena jumps up, reminding him that he couldn't check the roof for infected. Min-jun suggests she come with him, but Yena refuses in horror, calling him crazy. Then I'll go alone and you stay here, says Min-jun, leaving Yena deep in thought. Min-jun cautiously climbs the bloody stairs. He approaches the roof door with broken glass, ready to face the unknown. Min-jun notices that the glass in the roof door is cracked. He realizes the cracked glass won't hold for long, even with the film. Stepping onto the roof, Min-jun grimaces. It stinks here. Yena suddenly appears behind him, saying she has a bad feeling. Min-jun anxiously surveys the roof, his face tense. The roof looks inhabited, a table, a bench, even a small garden. Peering into an annex, Min-jun sees a bloodied body on the floor. A drop of sweat runs down his face as he realizes what he's seeing. It's the girl from the roof guy. She doesn't move. Everything around is covered in blood. Min-jun decides to at least pray for her, standing at the doorway. Min-jun leaves the annex, his face grim. Yena anxiously asks if anyone is there. Min-jun confirms there is a corpse. He advises her not to enter. Sweat runs down his face again. Yena looks downcast, a tear rolls down her cheek. Yena suggests lighting a fire to signal with smoke, discussing details with Min-jun. She shouts searching for survivors. Min-jun worries about infected, but Yena is confident they are safe on the roof. Back in the room, Yena suddenly asks Min-jun about his MBTI personality type. Min-jun admits he hasn't taken the test. Yena is shocked and teases him about social media. She asks about his hobbies. Min-jun hesitantly answers games, mentioning a zombie shooter. Yena finds irony in his interest in zombie games and keeps chatting. Min-jun is amazed by her cheerfulness. Yena suddenly wonders what her MBTI type is. Min-jun is lost since she hadn't noticed him before. He looks thoughtfully aside, pondering the oddities of fate. Yena playfully nudges him with her foot, continuing to chat. Min-jun realizes he is alone with the girl of his dreams. Before, he couldn't even dream of such interaction. Just imagining it would make him happy. But now, with the world collapsed, Min-jun doubts if it even matters. Yena indignantly kicks him, offended by his silence. He awkwardly apologizes, lost in thought. The camera shows a window tightly barricaded with boxes and tape. Yena flips through some magazine or manhwa about school romance. Several days pass. Yena lies relaxed on the floor, reading and swinging her legs. She calls Min-jun, smilingly asking if he has finished the laundry. Min-jun, wearing pink gloves, washes clothes by hand, while Yena is already hungry. He irritably thinks he will definitely run away from here without her. Am I Han Yena's slave? Min-jun protests, continuing to wash in the cramped bathroom. There is no electricity. He has to wash by candlelight and food supplies are running low. Min-jun, having gathered himself, tells Yena he is leaving, and she asks him to return in half an hour. If you make me wait, I'll kill you, Yena threatens. Min-jun nervously agrees. Min-jun cautiously peeks out from behind the door with cracked and bloodied glass. He checks the surroundings daily, using only safe routes. For several days, he observed and studied the infected outside. The infected's behavior is very similar to zombies. They attack the living but ignore the dead. Min-jun notes that the infected's vision is unclear, but at 50-100 meters they do not notice. However, they are very sensitive to sound, so making noise is forbidden. During the day, there are 2 to 3 times fewer infected than at night. It seems they hide from the sun. Because of this, Min-jun concludes, going out at night is strictly prohibited. But these features of the infected cause strange associations in Min-jun. He remembers an online game he used to play, noticing a frightening similarity. The infected's behavior seems so familiar, as if he has entered that very game. Min-jun wonders, is it just a coincidence or are the infected somehow connected to the game? This is just the beginning. A troubling thought flashes in his mind. And undoubtedly the end of the world will come, looking at the deserted city. Yena sighs from boredom, having reread all the comics. That bastard Jung Min-jun is late again, she thinks, deciding to discipline him. Suddenly, Yena hears the sound of a helicopter again. She shrugs indifferently. So what? The helicopter indeed flies over the city in the sky. She recalls how people on the roof desperately called for help, but the fire didn't help. The camera shows the tall building 104 among other houses. Yena sits on the floor, anxiously hugging her knees. The candlelight flickers. That bastard Jung Min-jun, she whispers, biting her nail. Why hasn't he returned? An hour and a half has passed. Yena panics, pacing the room. Did the infected attack him? Yena is angry, promising to discipline Min-jun if he dares to go to a dangerous place again. She sits on the floor, her anger turns into genuine worry. Jung Min-jun, please, You're not dead, right? Yana whispers, her eyes full of tears. The candle burns down, the sun sets, and Yana recalls Min-jun's words about the infected's nighttime activity. Curled up in a corner, she desperately waits for his return. Please don't leave me alone. Runs through her thoughts as her fear of loneliness grows. Suddenly, Yana lifts her head, hearing some noise behind the door. The door bursts open, and out of breath, Min-jun appears on the threshold, calling her. He abruptly falls silent, seeing Yana's condition. His face shows surprise. Min-jun looks at Yana standing before him, tearful but clearly happy to see him. Yana, with tears in her eyes, greets him with an angry tirade. You're 3 hours late, you psycho. Did you want to die? She swings to hit him, but Min-jun panics and shouts, Wait, look! Min-jun hands her flyers, explaining, The helicopter dropped them. I was collecting them. That's why I was late. Yana, still tearful, looks skeptically at the papers in her hands. In the dim candlelight, she begins to read while Min-jun waits tensely by the door. The flyer reads, Northern Seoul will be closed. Evacuation until 6 p.m. on the 10th. Already tomorrow? Yana is shocked. How is that possible with all the residents? On the back is a danger map. Their district is under observation, but neighboring ones are very dangerous. Yana looks seriously at Min-jun. Soon it could get worse for us too. So we have to run out of Northern Seoul right now? Min-jun is desperate. Is that even possible? Min-jun thinks aloud. Even Uijeongbu? Exactly where are they blocking everything? He concludes, if Nowon and Uijeongbu are in critical condition, running north out of Northern Seoul is impossible. We have no choice but to cross the Han River, Min-jun declares decisively. Min-jun explains to Yana, the fast routes across the river are dangerous. We'll have to detour through Gangdong-gu. Time is running out. Fortunately, Yeoncheon-dong, not far from here, is marked as safe, says Min-jun, packing his backpack. Yana looks at Min-jun with surprise and a hint of admiration. Wow, I thought you were just a nerd klutz, Yana says. You're smarter than I expected. Min-jun is slightly taken aback by Yana's unexpected compliment. Wait, we're not leaving right now? It's already evening? Yana looks at the clock and Min-jun suggests leaving in the morning. Maybe we can hold out a couple more days? Maybe someone will rescue us? Yana asks hopefully, but Min-jun sharply interrupts. Han Yana! Min-jun sternly states, if you want to die here, stay. I'm leaving at dawn tomorrow. Yana silently looks at him, her face showing mixed feelings. Ha. Damn. Fine. Yana covers her face with her hand, reluctantly agreeing. Min-jun suggests gathering things and food, deciding to pack everything into his backpack. Morning comes, the sun illuminates the city roofs, foretelling a difficult day. Well, shall we go? Min-jun stands by the door with his backpack. Yana nods uncertainly. Min-jun, already ready to leave, turns around. By the way, he asks Yana if she's sure she doesn't want to check her father's hospital. Sorry to ask again, Min-jun continues, but it's worth at least finding out if he's there. Close-up of Yena's eyes showing deep thought and pain. Yana firmly states, I told you everything is fine, let's go already. She explains to Min-jun, Dad and Mom got out of Northern Seoul and are now in a shelter. Got it. Min-jun, puzzled by her confidence, agrees, Okay, then let's go. But thinks to himself, what's going on? Min-jun cautiously steps outside with his backpack, past a blood-splattered broken window. He peeks around the corner, noticing a lone infected among the trash ahead. Min-jun signals Yana that the way is clear, and she runs to him down the alley. The camera soars upward, showing an overturned ambulance and traces of a massacre on the street. The heroes sneak past a growling infected hiding behind a corner. Min-jun shouts to Yana that the path is clear, while a bloodied glove lies on the ground. They run out onto a wider but still deserted street with abandoned cars. An advertisement on a bus is splattered with blood, reminding of life's fragility. Min-jun notices that moving during the day is easier, but shadows still hold threats. He explains to Yana, the infected avoid the sun, but they must not relax. Yana wearily asks how far Yeoncheon-dong is, regretting the lack of transport. Min-jun agrees transport would speed them up, but bikes were taken and communication doesn't work. Yana, breathing heavily, asks Min-jun for a 5-minute rest. He's walking too fast. She complains of leg pain. Min-jun silently listens to her ragged breathing. In response, Min-jun sarcastically suggests stopping at a cafe, Yena mentally boils with anger. Yena keeps grumbling, and Min-jun sharply cuts her off, fearing they might attract infected. The cityscape stretches under a peaceful sky, contrasting with their dangerous path. Yena wearily asks how much farther to Yeoncheon-dong. Min-jun replies that there's a little left. What? You said we were almost there, Yena protests, but Min-jun asks her to be patient a little longer. Min-jun recalls their journey, dodging infected accompanied by Yena's complaints, who now asks for water. Suddenly, a huge barricade made of a truck and furniture with the sign "No Entry" rises before them. The heroes stop before the imposing barrier. Yena is amazed by its scale. Min-jun assumes this is Yeoncheon-dong, and such a blockade promises safety. Yena sighs with relief. There must be survivors there, right? Yena eagerly rushes forward, but Min-jun wonders about the guards. Min-jun notes the absence of infected and the weakened corpse smell as he climbs over the truck, urging Yena to stay alert. Yena notices a shelter and suggests resting, complaining of leg pain, but Min-jun is adamant, there's no time. Stop whining, hurry up! Min-jun sharply cuts her off. Yena is shocked by his words. Whining? Yena is outraged by Min-jun's rudeness, who has already climbed over the barricade. And now they stand face to face again, tension rising. The narration reminds, they are in the same situation as at the very beginning. Yena cries. Min-jun looks at her with a serious, unreadable gaze. Yena, with a trembling voice, quietly says, Sorry. Min-jun's eyes behind his glasses widen in surprise or fear. I already apologized, Yena repeats, and infected appear behind her. In horror, Yena shouts to Min-jun, Be behind you! A scream of terror. A horde of bloodthirsty infected rushes straight at them. Min-jun sharply grabs Yena's hand, preparing to flee. Min-jun drags Yena away. Their faces are full of horror and determination. They race down the street, pursued by an outstretched hand of an infected. Yena panics, shouting that the area should be safe. Min-jun orders, Just run! Suddenly, Min-jun notices a man peeking from behind a cabinet. Survivor! The man desperately waves them. Quick, this way! Min-jun nods gratefully. The stranger promises to block the passage. Yena hurries inside and Min-jun rushes to help. Yena anxiously calls Min-jun, but he tells her to hide immediately. The man struggles to move the cabinet, counting 1, 2. At 3, the infected breaks through, lunging at the rescuer. Close up, the man's face distorts with pain and horror as the infected bites him. Min-jun screams in horror, Get away, sir! The infected fiercely tears at the man, who falls, splattering everything with blood. The passage is broken! The rescuer shouts for them to run as the infected breaks through. Yena screams in panic. Min-jun commands, Run back! They race again through the narrow passage, pursued by the infected. Min-jun helps Yena climb over another barricade as the pursuer catches up. At the top of the barricade, Min-jun shouts, We have to jump! Yena agrees in despair. Yena screams as they land on the asphalt on the other side. Ow, my foot, I twisted it. Yena moans. Min-jun turns around in shock. Min-jun looks back in horror, realizing their hopeless situation. The infected relentlessly approach. Yena is on the ground. Min-jun turns around. In Min-jun's eyes behind his glasses flashes unexpected determination. Yena's words resurface. You're so pathetic, why don't you fight back against bullies? Her reproaches continue. Are you disgusted with yourself? Is your life so pathetic? Min-jun's hand reaches for a knife in his backpack. A thought flashes. Even if I die here. Yena looks at him with worry and surprise, not understanding his intentions. Min-jun turns toward the danger. Yena calls out fearfully, Jung Min-jun! He stands before her with a knife, ready to face the enemy. I won't die running away like a coward. He pulls out a knife, determined to go all the way. The girl looks at him anxiously. Jung Min-jun stands up to protect her. With the knife in his hand, he blocks the pursuer's path. Suddenly, a motorcycle rushes by with a whistle. A shout of "Everyone down!" rings out, and complete chaos begins. Min-jun, shocked, turns toward the noise. An unexpected ally delivers a crushing blow to the enemy. A whole gang bursts in to help, finishing off the opponents. The couple is confused because the new rescuers did not come for them. The gang leader with a bloodied bat admires his partner. Suddenly, he notices a familiar face in the crowd. It's Han Yena, and he clearly knows her. His gaze shifts to Min-jun, whom he does not recognize. Meanwhile, Min-jun regains consciousness, still horrified. It turns out the savior is his school bully, Park San-bin. Sanbin mockingly praises Min-jun for his bravery with the knife. He is surprised they are together and asks about their meeting. Yena thanks Sanbin for saving her, and he clearly enjoys the moment. Sanbin invites Yena to their hideout, promising complete safety. Sanbin mentions the closure of Kanbuk and suggests discussing everything at their hideout. He offers Yena to ride his motorcycle, and she readily agrees. Min-jun silently watches what is happening, his gaze tense. Yena stands hesitantly, unsure what to do. One of the gang members doubts whether they should take Yena with them. But Sanbin suddenly changes his mind and tells her to get in the car. Yena insists that Min-jun should go with them, surprising Sanbin. Other gang members oppose, calling her a burden and a reason to save food. Yena looks at Min-jun with pain as one of the guys mockingly says goodbye to him. However, Sanbin, after thinking, decides to take Min-jun too, saying extra hands won't hurt. Min-jun suddenly refuses to go, shocking Sanbin. He states he will take care of himself and has other plans. Yena looks at him anxiously, not understanding his decision. Min-jun turns and leaves, ignoring her plea to stop. Sanbin is furious and threatens to kill Min-jun if he disobeys again. He asks if Min-jun wants to share the fate of the recently killed enemies. Min-jun throws a cold, defiant look at him. Sanbin orders him to go quietly before he takes action. Yena is horrified by his words and shouts if he has gone mad. She recalls that Sanbin had beaten Min-jun before, unchanged at all. A past conversation surfaces. One of the guys talks about the chance her arrival gives them. They discuss her photos on social media, gloating over her troubles. A memory shows them laughing at Min-jun, calling him a loser. Min-jun stands with a downcast look, a drop of sweat rolling down his face. Sanbin awkwardly apologizes to Yena, brushing off her reproaches. Yena apologizes to Sanbin, and Min-jun says he will catch up with them himself. Sanbin accepts his decision but warns that leaving here is pure suicide. He offers him to rest in their hideout, promising to take him to a safe place tomorrow. Sanbin points the way, and they head toward the entrance of the hideout. At the entrance, Sanbin smirks and says, Min-jun already knows this place since he has been here before. Min-jun realizes this is the same abandoned construction site where Sanbin beat him up. While the gang clears the way, Yena looks questioningly at Min-jun. Min-jun quietly addresses Yena, trying to warn her about something. He whispers that he will not go with them and suggests she run while she still can. He has a bad feeling, but Yena brushes it off, calling them just idiots. She recalls that Sanbin was her favorite since school and promises to protect Min-jun. Yena believes there are other survivors in the hideout, but Min-jun knows this is a lie. He thinks with horror if she still considers Sanbin just a childhood friend. Yena silently looks at him, and a shadow of doubt appears in her gaze. Suddenly, Yena calls out to Sanbin, who is already going inside. Yena tells Sanbin that she and Min-jun will better go their own way. She explains with tears in her eyes that her parents are in a shelter in Sofyeondong. Sanbin is surprised because he heard that this area was completely destroyed. He suggests she rest with them and set off tomorrow rather than risk it with Min-jun. Yena nervously insists that they are in a great hurry and must leave immediately. She grabs Min-jun's hand, deciding to take him away right now. But one of the gangsters with a bat sharply blocks their way. He stops the girl, coldly saying her name. Sanbin repeats that if she wants to leave, it will only be tomorrow and with them. He stares directly at her and asks what she is even doing with Min-jun and why such a rush. Yena looks at Sanbin fearfully, saying his name. She clenches her fist, firmly declaring that she is leaving immediately. Min-jun darkly thinks that he foresaw such a turn of events. Sanbin suggests going inside to calmly discuss everything. Yena nervously sweats while he convinces her that the day is almost over. Sanbin, bat in hand, leads them deeper into the territory. Yena and Min-jun follow him. One of the guys walks ahead, approaching the abandoned construction site. Min-jun notes that they built barricades to protect against the infected. However, he notices that the fortifications are made rather carelessly. Min-jun quietly releases Yena's hand, his fingers tense. He softly whispers to her not to worry. Min-jun promises he won't leave her alone for a second. Yena looks at him with a tear on her cheek, still frightened. Suddenly there is a loud bang and Yena screams in surprise. On the monitor, she sees infected banging on the door and begs in horror for something to be done. The gangster laughs, assuring that everything is secure, but Min-jun sees the fortifications are flimsy. It turns out their hideout is surrounded by a crowd of infected trying to break through. Sanbin points to the stairs leading to the second floor, the only way up. Min-jun climbs up first and anxiously surveys the new place. As soon as he is upstairs, one of the guys ominously says he has caught him. Min-jun looks around and sees that the rest of the gang is already waiting for them on the second floor. One of them, a big guy with tattoos, exclaims in surprise that they are newbies. Sanbin introduces Yena, and the big guy recognizes her name with delight. He introduces himself as Lee Bong-kyu and asks why she didn't accept his Instagram request. Yena says confusedly that she's hearing about him for the first time and thinks with disgust who this pig is. Bong-kyu approaches her, offering to make herself at home, but Yena recoils. He mockingly states that all bridges are burned and they will have to survive here. Min-jun suspiciously surveys their camp, not believing they arranged all this themselves. Suddenly, one of the gangsters asks Sanbin if he broke into someone else's hideout. Sanbin brushes it off, and another guy rejoices that now they have food and a girl. Yena realizes in horror that she has fallen into a trap. She understands that Min-jun was right, and Sanbin deceived her. Yena pulls Sanbin aside to talk to him alone. She demands to stop this circus and asks to be let go. The girl says she doesn't like this atmosphere and his creepy friends. She apologizes, but firmly states that she cannot stay here. Yena turns to Min-jun, preparing to leave with him. But Sanbin suddenly grabs her hand, not letting her go. Yena panics and turns around, not believing what is happening. Sanbin coldly asks where she thinks she's going. Sanbin mockingly asks if she really thinks she can do whatever she wants. But suddenly Min-jun grabs Sanbin's hand, pulling him away from Yena. He stands between them and demands that Sanbin stop immediately. Sanbin looks at Min-jun with contempt and smirks. He calls the guy a bastard and asks if he has gone crazy. Sanbin provokes him, suggesting he stab him with the knife he is hiding. He continues mocking, calling Min-jun a coward who doesn't dare to attack. The noise attracts Bong-kyu's attention, who asks disapprovingly what is happening. Sanbin tries to smooth things over, saying that Yena is just uncomfortable. Then he informs on Min-jun, reporting that he has a knife and refused to give it up. Bong-kyu threateningly demands that Min-jun hand over the knife, or he will be beaten. Min-jun realizes he cannot give up the weapon, but he cannot stand against 5 men either. Another gangster explains the hierarchy. Bong-kyu is the leader, and Sanbin is the squad commander. He warns that disobedience will mean death for Min-jun, and he is forced to agree. Bong-kyu suddenly hugs Yena, offering her to rest in his tent. The girl tries to excuse herself, saying she was just scared due to the stress of recent days. The big guy boasts about his comfortable tent with a soft mattress. Yena realizes in horror that she needs to buy time and decides on a desperate step. She timidly says she is very hungry and would like to eat first. Bong-kyu enthusiastically announces that since Yena is hungry, they will have a meat party. Min-jun realizes with horror that this is the worst possible situation. He understands that there is no police left in the city. It is a zone of complete lawlessness. Bong-kyu awkwardly hugs Yena, simultaneously apologizing and saying how sweet she is. Min-jun thinks these gangsters are no less dangerous than the infected, especially for Yena. He desperately looks for a way to immediately get the girl out of this trap. He thinks of luring the infected to cause panic, but hesitates. The guy looks at the other 3 survivors, but is unsure if they can be trusted. He decides to escape at night, but fears the gangsters might harm Yena before then. Min-jun stands at the edge of the platform, cursing the hopelessness of his situation. Meanwhile, the gang starts preparing meat on the grill for the promised party. Bong-kyu is charmed by Yena and anticipates dinner. The gangsters grill meat, and one of them exclaims obscenely in delight. He justifies himself by saying he simply loves the smell of pork. He takes 2 portions of food to feed the men. He approaches them, attracting their attention. The guy tells them there isn't much food there, but they can eat a little. The man thanks the guy with surprise. Evening falls. Yena and Min-jun sit silently aside. Someone shouts the girl's name. Bong-kyu calls Yena to him, but she refuses mentally. He shouts that he wants her to sleep next to him. The girl says she wants to sleep alone and decides she will escape as soon as everyone falls asleep. Bong-kyu is angry at Sanbin, who asks him not to touch the girl. Sanbin unexpectedly demands that the leader stop. Bong-kyu looks at his subordinate in confusion. Sanbin drops his mask and calls the boss a bastard. Bong-kyu is furious, not believing such insolence. He yells at Sanbin, asking if he has gone mad. Sanbin laughs and says he decided long ago to kill Bong-kyu. He announces that from now on, he will be the leader here. Bong-kyu furiously lunges at Sanbin, shouting curses. He swings his tattooed arm for a powerful blow, but Sanbin catches him from behind in a chokehold, wishing him death. One of the gangsters shouts in shock, not believing Sanbin's betrayal. Suddenly, another gangster loyal to Sanbin delivers a crushing blow to Bong-kyu. He orders to kill them both, and a brutal fight begins. The survivors watch the bloody gang fight in horror. Min-jun realizes this is their only chance for escape. He urgently tells Yena it's time to act. The The guy looks at her with determination, understanding there is no time to delay. Taking advantage of the chaos, Min-jun and Yena rush to run, but they are noticed. Suddenly, someone grabs Yena from behind and she screams in terror. Min-jun panics, turning around and shouting the girl's name. One of the survivors has taken Yena hostage, holding a knife to her. He threatens to kill her if she does not stand still. In desperation, Yena bites the hand of her captor. She pushes him away, breaking free from the grip while he screams in pain. Enraged, the guy swings the knife to strike Yena, but Min-jun manages to intercept his hand, stopping the blow. Yena watches in amazement as Min-jun saves her life. The guy curses the attacker in fury. A powerful kick shakes the air. The guy swings the knife toward Min-jun. The blood-stained knife falls to the floor. Yena covers her mouth with her hands in horror. Min-jun's hand grips the bleeding wound. The gangsters look at Min-jun in shock. Min-jun attacks Yena's offender with rage. The enraged gangster tries to retaliate. Someone grabs the girl by the arm. Sanbin whispers to Yena that he has been after her since middle school. He mocks her, asking why she thinks she is better than him. The guy boasts about his wealth, claiming he is not inferior to her in anything. Yena listens in horror as he asks why she is so arrogant specifically with him. With a mad grin, he declares that he intends to take her. One of the survivors, Officer Kim, shouts for him to stop immediately. Without hesitation, Sanbin delivers a powerful kick to the old man's stomach. The officer falls to the floor, and another survivor rushes to him in panic. Enraged, Sanbin threatens to kill the old man if he interferes again. He coldly states that he warned twice, and now it's time for the officer to leave. Sanbin throws the officer down like trash. A mute horror freezes in Yena's eyes at what she has seen. The old man's lifeless body lies on the first floor among splashes of blood. He desperately begs for mercy as zombies appear behind him. The others scream in panic, not believing Sanbin's order. Sanbin orders his men to get rid of these old men as well. He shouts in rage to throw everyone down except Yena. Yena runs to the wounded Min-jun, who is coughing up blood. Min-jun tells her to run, but Sanbin mockingly calls her by name. With a creepy grin, he declares that now she will entertain him. Min-jun desperately tries to break free. One of the students looks at the fallen Min-jun with malice. He mocks Min-jun, considering him a weakling. Sanbin orders his men to throw Min-jun down. The gangsters grab Min-jun, preparing to carry out the order. The student feels someone grab him. The guy grabs the student and falls down with him. Sanbin is shocked that Min-jun was conscious. He yells at his men that they are idiots and careless. The guys lie on the ground below. Below, the student regains consciousness, writhing in pain. He realizes in horror that his leg seems broken. Seeing Min-jun trying to leave, he shouts his name. A gangster grabs Min-jun's leg with all his might. He doesn't let the guy go, angrily asking where he thinks he's going. The enraged student blames Min-jun for his fracture, but then an infected appears behind him, and he desperately prays for help. Upstairs, Sanbin orders to throw his man to his fate. Yena watches this cruelty in frozen horror. Realizing this is her chance, the girl dashes off running. Sanbin curses and chases after Yena. The girl climbs the scaffolding, trying to hide. He shouts after her, demanding she stop immediately. The guy's face twists with rage at her disobedience. He mockingly asks where she's running to, since zombies are everywhere at night. Yena reaches the roof, searching for a way to escape. Sanbin threatens that she will regret it badly once he catches her. Without hesitation, Yena makes a desperate jump to the neighboring roof. In her eyes, fear mixes with determination to fight to the end. Sanbin bursts out with mad laughter, amazed by her agility. Sanbin also jumps, threatening her with retribution as soon as he catches her. But in midair, he realizes with horror that he is losing balance. The guy falls and plunges into the dark abyss between the buildings. He lands with a dull thud on something below. Yena sees this and understands that this is her only chance. She cups her hands like a megaphone and starts shouting loudly. Her scream attracts the attention of the infected crowd below. The girl deliberately directs the horde of zombies straight towards Sanbin. Sanbin panics and calls for help, but it is already too late. In rage, he curses Yena, promising to kill her. One of the bandits turns around in horror at the death scream. Two infected run straight at him from the darkness. From the roof, Yena sees the zombies catching up to Sanbin, but then she remembers Min-jun in horror. The girl clenches her hands, praying that he is alive. Suddenly, she notices a familiar figure below. With relief, Yena calls Min-jun up to the roof. She anxiously asks if he has enough strength to climb up. Min-jun grabs the bar and begins to climb. Overcoming the pain, he struggles with his last strength to reach her. Yena begs him to hold on a little longer. She pulls him onto the roof with all her might. The guy falls exhausted but assures her that the infected did not bite him. Suddenly, one of the bandits appears below and shouts furiously, looking for Sanbin. Min-jun realizes they need to run immediately. The girl anxiously asks if he can run, but he tells her to save herself. But the guy immediately falls, and Yena barely manages to catch him. The girl turns around frightened, worried about the guy. She panics and asks if he is okay. Gathering her strength, the girl carries him on her back to leave. Leaning on each other, they disappear into a dark alley. Yena whispers that the infected could be nearby because it is very dangerous at night. Min-jun, barely standing, quietly calls her by name. He begs her to run alone if they are noticed, but the girl refuses in tears. Yena resolutely declares that she will save him no matter what it takes. The girl notices that there is no smell in this alley, which means no infected. They slowly wander down the deserted street looking for shelter. Yena's face is tense. She constantly looks around. Ahead, they see a slightly open door leading into a building. Yena cautiously peeks into the dark room that looks like a warehouse. She listens, hoping that there is really no one inside. Yena leads him inside, offering to rest a little. But the guy immediately falls exhausted, and the girl screams his name. Min-jun, with his last strength, asks her to save herself. After these words, he finally loses consciousness. Tears choke Yena. She looks at him with guilt. She whispers that it is all her fault. The girl blames herself for dragging him to the construction site. She remembers that his suffering at school was also because of her. The girl turns around frightened, hearing some noise. In despair, Yena calls for help upon hearing footsteps. A shadow of an approaching person appears on the floor. Suddenly, a man with an axe bursts into the room. The strangers look at Yena in shock, not expecting to find anyone alive here. The girl, with tears in her eyes, recognizes familiar faces in them. She remembers seeing one of them hiding in an alley. He helped them get through a barrier when they were running from zombies. It turns out these are the same survivors who saved them earlier. One of them notices Min-jun lying down and sees a pool of blood under him. Yena screams in panic that he was not bitten but stabbed with a knife. Yena begs them to help, shouting that Min-jun is losing too much blood. One of the men anxiously asks if she herself is okay, but in the next moment he suddenly covers her mouth and her face contorts with horror. The men laugh maliciously, rejoicing at such luck and deciding to drag her away with them. Since the girl resists, one of them suggests knocking her out, even if it means hitting her. Suddenly, a calm but authoritative order to stop comes from the darkness. The men stop, seeing some guy in front of them. The men exchange glances, and the one with the axe orders without hesitation to kill him. One of them lunges at the guy, but the guy is not unarmed either. A folding knife appears in his hand. He dodges the axe swing from the man attacking him. In response, he delivers a precise knife strike to the bandit's neck. The attacker falls, choking on blood, and his accomplice freezes in horror. The remaining bandit, furious, presses the axe to Yena, shouting for the guy not to move. But without answering, the guy stabs with the knife. He throws the knife at the bandit, hitting him in the head and saving the girl. Yena looks in amazement at her unexpected savior. It turns out to be her classmate deserter, Kan Hakchol. Later, medical supplies for treating wounds lie on the table. Hakchol reports that Min-jun's wound is shallow and he will be fine. Hakchol says Min-jun lost consciousness from shock and needs a day of rest. Yena thanks him and wonders where he got such medical skills. The guy changes the subject and sternly asks what they were doing in this area at all. Yena tells about the leaflet, about the safe zone, and the attack by Pak Sanbin's gang. She recalls last seeing Sanbin when he was chased by the infected. Hakchol thoughtfully suggests that the guy might still be alive. He reports that rumors about the safe zone in Yanshandong are no longer relevant. According to him, attempts to contain the infected failed, and their numbers have sharply increased. Hakchol warns that now the area is crawling with people more dangerous than the infected. He cautions her that in this lawless place she could be kidnapped if she is careless. Yena thinks in horror that soon all of Seoul might suffer the same fate. She comes to her senses and asks Hakchol how he ended up here. The guy grimly replies that it is a long story. Yena hopefully asks if it is true that he was going to Gangnam tomorrow. The girl recalls the closure of Gangbook mentioned in the leaflet. Hakchol seriously reports that the situation has gotten even worse. He explains that the bridges to Gangnam over the Han River have been blocked for 2 days. Due to the sudden blockade, huge crowds of infected have gathered at the bridges. Yena is surprised where he got such information, and he refers to other survivors. A tear rolls down the girl's face. She realizes there is no hope left. Hakchol says there is still a chance to find a boat and cross the Han River. Yena doubts if it is safe in Gangnam, but Hakchol admits there is no 100% guarantee anywhere. He firmly states that he must get there because his younger sister is already in a shelter in Gangnam. The girl asks in surprise how it happened that they got separated. Hakchol begins his story. The day after the chaos started, he and his family took refuge in a shelter. Soon the military arrived to evacuate survivors from the dangerous Gangbuk area. However, children and elderly were sent first, so Hakchol had to stay behind. In panic, he tries to find out from a soldier where exactly his sister is being taken. The soldier calmly replies that they are sending her to a shelter in Gangnam. Hakchol bitterly finishes the story saying the military never returned for those left behind. Yina asks with tears in her eyes what happened to his uncle. He tells that infected broke into their shelter and chaos began. The guy bitterly finishes the story, implying his uncle did not survive. Hakchol clenches his fist and abruptly changes the subject. He announces he is leaving at dawn, shocking Yena. The girl begs him to take them with him, but the guy replies it is too risky. Hakchol explains that in a large group someone will definitely die. Moreover, according to him, Min-jun needs at least a day to recover. Yena, clasping her hands, says Min-jun's mother is also in Gangnam. She falls to her knees, desperately begging Hakchol to help them get out. Hakchol looks at her and thoughtfully says she has changed a lot. He admits that he hardly knew her at school, but now she seems like a completely different person to him. The guy suggests talking in the morning when Min-jun wakes up and wishes her to rest. Yena, left on her knees, looks after him gratefully. Morning comes. All three are sleeping in their temporary shelter. Someone wakes Yena, and she, covered with a blanket, slowly opens her eyes. It is Hakchol with a bat in his hand. He asks if she saw what happened to Sanbin. The girl does not understand the point of the question, but the guy replies that he will just go there briefly. He explains that he wants to take the bandits' scooters and check something. Yena objects in horror, saying there are now plenty of infected there and Sanbin has probably become one of them too. He calmly says that if something happens to him, they will be left alone. He states that 300 meters is not a distance and begins telling the story of his escape from North Korea. The girl listens in shock to his story of a journey 10,000 kilometers long. The guy tells how they crossed the river, hid in China, and reached Thailand through Laos. He admits that during those 2 years of exhausting travel, they lost his younger brother. After finishing the story, he says he will watch over Min-jun when he wakes up and promises to return. Yena remains alone in the quiet room, watching him with a worried look. Outside, the guy tries to climb somewhere. Hakchol is already on the roof, pondering where to start checking the territory. He surveys the surroundings, wondering if Pak Sanbin is still alive. Meanwhile, Min-jun sleeps peacefully in bed, regaining strength. Yena sits nearby, patiently waiting for him to wake up. Finally, the guy wakes up and asks confusedly where he is. The girl explains that their classmate Hakchol treated his wounds. Min-jun barely remembers falling from the second floor at the construction site. Yena tightly squeezes his hand, glad that he has finally come to. With tears in her eyes, she says how worried she was, thinking he was dead. The guy looks at her, touched by her sincere care. She kneels by his bed, not letting go of his hand. Suddenly, she pushes his hand away. The girl scolds him, shouting that he made her terribly worried. Min-jun shyly apologizes, but Yena immediately thanks him for saving her. She conveys Hakchol's words that Min-jun needs to rest at least a day. The guy objects, saying he heard Gangbuk will close soon and they have no time. He tries to get up but immediately falls back on the bed from weakness. Yena shouts for him to lie down and not move, and the guy reluctantly agrees. Suddenly there is a knock on the door, making both turn tensely. Hakchol enters the room, and Yena breathes a sigh of relief. Hakchol hands Min-jun his school backpack. He explains that he found it at the construction site and decided to return it. Min-jun looks at the backpack emotionally, saying it is a gift from his mother. Hakchol hands him glasses he also found at the construction site. The guy thanks him with relief, glad the glasses were found. Min-jun remembers that Yena told him about Hakchol's help and thanks him. Yena anxiously asks what Hakchol saw at the construction site and what happened to Sanbin. Hakchol confirms seriously that he checked that place. He says that as expected, Sanbin himself was not there. But all his gang, except him, turned into bloodthirsty infected. The girl desperately asks if this means they will never see Sanbin again. Hakchol coldly states that he may lose in a fight, but always wins when it comes to killing. Hakchol reminds them that, as he said yesterday, he plans to escape from Gangbuk. He looks at Yena and Min-jun, asking if they are ready to follow him. Min-jun immediately agrees, but Yena screams in horror that he needs rest. Hakchol supports Yena, but Min-jun insists that tomorrow may be too late. The guy takes a marker, stating that haste will ruin everything and a clear plan is needed. He approaches the board, saying he found another way to cross the Han River. Hakchol draws a diagram and announces that they will use the 5th subway line. Min-jun, shocked, clarifies if he means the underground tunnel beneath the river. The guy doubts its safety, but Hakchol explains that the 5th line has protective doors. He admits the main problem is getting to the station, but believes it's worth trying. Hakchol explains that the nearest Changhan station is far, and the way there will be dangerous. Outside, twilight deepens, hinting at upcoming difficulties. The guy states he has personal survival rules and begins listing them. First rule, don't rush, find shelter to recover strength and assess the situation. Second rule, go outside only alone or in pairs, avoiding groups of 3. Hakchol pauses, preparing to state the last and most important rule. He writes the 3rd rule on the board, never sacrifice your life for another. Hakchol's gaze is on Min-jun as he explains, save yourself, not others. He firmly states that in a critical situation, he will save himself alone. Min-jun listens in horror to Hakchol's order, you must not sacrifice yourself for someone else. Hakchol addresses Min-jun, getting his attention. He hands the guy a bloodied bat with nails, ordering him to use it as a weapon. Min-jun recoils in horror, unable to believe he must take such a dreadful thing in his hands. Hakchol explains that such a bat will scare off not only the infected but also bad people. He reminds that the infected will attack to kill, so they must be ready. The guy gives a grim tip, strike to pierce the heart or brain. After the briefing, Hakchol announces it's time to move out. The trio steps onto an abandoned street, ready for a dangerous journey. Min-jun grips the bat but is tormented by doubts. Is it right to kill the infected? He sees writing on a fence and thinks that the infected are former people attacking against their will. Min-jun wonders, if he kills them, won't he become a killer himself? He worries that if the law still applies, his actions will be considered a crime. Hakchol sharply cuts off his thoughts, ordering him not to think nonsense. He sternly reminds that this is a matter of life and death, and without strong spirit, they won't survive. Yena listens anxiously to their conversation, understanding the seriousness of the situation. Suddenly, the girl stops and addresses Hakchol. She suggests not taking this path, sensing many infected there. Hakchol asks in surprise where she gets such confidence. The girl explains she senses a special, terrible smell that comes from the infected. Hakchol looks at her in amazement, realizing she has a special ability. Hakchol skeptically asks if she can really sense where the infected are. She says it's not just a smell, but more like a premonition, which isn't always accurate, Min-jun recalls. He realizes Yena was always very sensitive to smells before. Hakchol decides to test her words and says he will step away for a minute. He cautiously peeks around the corner to assess the situation ahead. In the alley, he sees a whole crowd of infected wandering among bloodied bodies. Hakchol is shocked to realize Yena truly has a unique ability. The girl anxiously asks if her guess was confirmed. Hakchol confirms she was right and suggests looking in another direction. He points to a building's roof where a human silhouette is visible. He assumes the soldier on the roof is most likely infected too. Hakchol looks at the roof with a determined expression. Suddenly he turns and orders the others to follow him into the building. He assures them it's safe upstairs while Yena struggles up the stairs. Upstairs, the guy takes out binoculars to get a better look at the roof. Through the binoculars, he sees at least 3 infected soldiers. Hakchol notices one infected soldier has a rifle. Min-jun anxiously asks if he plans to steal that weapon. He lists the risks. There are too many of them, the rifle might be out of ammo, and firing would attract all the infected. Min-jun adds that he doesn't know how to shoot, but Hakchol confidently states that he does. Hakchol declares that this weapon is absolutely necessary for them and decides to take it. Yena objects in horror, reminding them they won't manage 3 infected in a tight space. She anxiously adds that the rifle hangs on the infected soldier's body, which means to take it, they will have to kill that soldier. Min-jun thinks aloud, saying something is bothering him. He recalls sitting in his room playing a computer game. On the monitor screen, a first-person shooter eerily similar to their reality. In the game, he shot enemies without hesitation, but now he is tormented by anxiety. Suddenly, he realizes that sooner or later, such a weapon will become vital for them. The guy decisively agrees with the plan, shocking Yena and Hakchol. Yena considers their idea crazy, but Hakchol says he and Min-jun will go together. Hakchol explains that 3 would be too cramped and asks her to watch their backpacks. Resigned, the girl agrees to help and asks what she should do. An infected girl stands in the alley. Hakchol quietly and quickly runs behind her. After running off, Hakchol suggests climbing up by grabbing the railing, but Min-jun hesitates. On the way up, Hakchol is surprised by Min-jun's courage, but the guy admits he is still anxious. On the roof of the neighboring building, 3 infected soldiers wander among bloody traces. Up close, it's clear the soldiers stagger aimlessly, and one has the coveted rifle on his back. Hakchol confirms there are 3 soldiers, but they are too close together to deal with quietly. Hakchol asks if Min-jun plans to use knives, but he replies that won't kill an infected immediately. Hakchol states they must finish in 10 seconds, shocking Min-jun. Min-jun doesn't understand how they'll handle 3, but Hakchol says he needs help. He explains his plan. He takes on the first, and the other 2 will rush him. At that moment, Min-jun must knock one of them out with the bat, which terrifies him. The guy fears something will go wrong, but Hakchol gives him one task: to not get bitten. Hakchol stands and seriously addresses the guy by his full name. He says he understands what worries Min-jun, but that's not the main thing now. Hakchol firmly states survival is above all, and they must act for that. Hakchol's words take effect, and Min-jun agrees to the plan with determination in his eyes. Min-jun realizes that after the incident on the roof, he no longer sees the infected as people. 3 infected soldiers wander on the roof, becoming targets for the guys. Hakchol and Min-jun take positions, preparing to execute their plan. Noticing them, all 3 infected roar and charge and attack. Hakchol fearlessly lunges at the first soldier with knives in hand. He understands that for success he needs only one deadly strike. The guy delivers a precise blow aimed at a vital point. But after defeating the first, he sees the other 2 approaching and realizes they are trapped. In desperation, he decides to take down at least one with a single blow. His knife hits the target but doesn't penetrate deeply enough to cause a fatal wound. Hakchol tries to finish off the soldier, but he clings to him with a death grip. Realizing he is trapped, Hakchol desperately calls Min-jun for help. Min-jun, overcoming fear, swings the bat at the second infected. He delivers a crushing blow, knocking the soldier down. The guy looks at the fallen enemy in horror, unable to believe what he has done. But the infected refuses to give up and tries to get up, roaring with rage. Hakchol realizes one bat strike was not enough. Meanwhile, the second soldier attacks him, and Hakchol finds himself surrounded. He decides to focus on the soldier with the rifle to take the weapon at any cost, while a zombie tries to bite his arm. The guy swings the knife. Hakchol strikes the soldier's throat with the knife. The soldier falls on the guy, knocking him to the ground, and he drops his knife. Hakchol looks at the fallen weapon in horror, realizing he is unarmed. Meanwhile, the second infected is already nearby. Hakchol realizes they are trapped. One monster holds Min-jun, and the second rushes at him. In despair, he understands that now all they can do is pray. His last hope is the rifle, and he prays there are at least 2 bullets in it. Summoning his last strength, Hakchol tears the rifle from the soldier's shoulder. He aims the weapon at the zombie already close to him. Meanwhile, Min-jun cannot handle his opponent, amazed by his inhuman strength. Min-jun screams Hakchol's name in horror as he is grabbed by the infected. A tragedy unfolds on the roof. Both guys are trapped, and there seems to be no way out. A sudden shot. Hakchol, lying on the ground, praises Min-jun for his bravery. With the rifle in hand, he declares that the real battle is just beginning. Meanwhile, Yena flinches at the loud sound coming from the roof. She listens carefully and realizes 2 deafening shots were fired. Grabbing binoculars, the girl prays in tears that the guys are okay. Through the lenses, she sees with relief that Hakchol and Min-jun are standing. Min-jun apologizes for his helplessness, but Hakchol thanks him for the help. The guy is amazed by Hakchol's accuracy, but he admits it was his first time shooting in life. Hakchol suggests checking how many bullets are left in the rifle. Min-jun looks grim, feeling he failed. The guys realize the shots attracted infected from all around. Hakchol urges Min-jun to search the bodies for ammunition. Meanwhile, Yena begins to worry in her shelter, not seeing the guys. Thinking they have already come down, she prepares to meet them. However, looking out the window, the girl freezes in horror. A huge crowd of infected gathers right under the building. Yena panics, realizing they can't come down now, and worries about the guys. The main question is clear in her eyes. Will they be able to return at all? Yena sees one of the infected looking straight at her. He looks at her with a creepy, insane smile. The girl recoils from the window in horror, covering her mouth with her hand. A thought flashes through her mind. He looked at me and smiled. In the dark corridor cluttered with junk, something terrible is brewing. The girl hides in the corner, trembling with fear and whispering, "This can't be." She clearly remembers how they barricaded the entrance on the first floor. but the dreadful roar outside confirms her worst fear. Could it be they got inside? How are the infected even capable of this, since they shouldn't be able to think? Suddenly it dawns on her. No, it didn't break through the door, it's climbing up here. From the darkness on the stairs appears a bloodied figure of an infected. Relentlessly, step by step, it climbs the stairs closer and closer. Holding her breath, the girl sees the monster enter the room. It suddenly turns sharply and looks straight at her with a mad, creepy grin. The girl freezes in horror, unable to even move. Tears run down her cheeks as she watches the approaching monster. With a crazed snarl, the infected lunges straight at her. Suddenly, there is a dull thud and blood splatters everywhere. Blood splashes onto her face, but she remains unharmed. At the last moment, two guys with weapons in their hands save her. Later, in safety, one of the rescuers asks her a troubling question. She says that the monster's grin was frighteningly deliberate. The guy with glasses recalls that the barricaded entrance had been broken by someone. This leads them to think someone uninfected intentionally let the creature inside. She wonders if that infected one could have retained some emotions. The guy proposes a theory. Maybe some infected are evolving. Pouring water, he imagines monsters beginning to coordinate their attacks. The girl suspiciously asks where he got such precise information. Clearly nervous, the guy with glasses says it's just his assumption. He explains that their behavior eerily reminds him of a certain video game. His words cause an awkward pause. Everyone sinks into their thoughts. She asks in shock if he's implying they are inside a game, but he immediately denies it. The second guy brings them back to reality, stating they just need to survive. He asks if she got infected from the blood splashes, but quickly clarifies that only bites are dangerous. The guy counts their meager arsenal, a rifle, 2 knives, and only 15 bullets. He gives one of the knives to the guy with glasses, saying he has his own folding knife.
He hands the second knife to the girl, who looks at the weapon in confusion.
She needs to learn to defend herself because they won't always be nearby. Moreover, he plans to teach them both how to handle the rifle, because if he dies, one of them will have to take over his role. A heavy silence hangs over their shelter as they discuss grim prospects. The guy with glasses nervously interrupts, saying such phrases are a sure sign of imminent death in movies. But the other seriously replies that he doesn't intend to die, they just have to be ready for anything. The guy with glasses agrees, but immediately adds that he always dreamed of shooting a real gun. The guy with the rifle suggests the girl also learn to shoot. She hesitantly replies that she doesn't know if she wants that. Suddenly, she coldly asks the guy with glasses not to come near her. He is puzzled, and she repeats that she simply doesn't want to be near him. The guy with glasses is completely confused by her sudden hostility. He doesn't understand what he did wrong, but she mentally calls him an insensitive loner. In reality, she's worried that she hasn't washed for several days and feels dirty. She scolds herself for thinking about such trivial things when survival is at stake. But deep down, she understands she just doesn't want to be near that guy right now. Looking at him, she herself wonders since when she has cared so much about this jerk. She is annoyed by her own mixed feelings toward this guy. The next day, they leave the shelter, seeing signs of a recent slaughter on the street. The trio cautiously moves through deserted streets littered with debris. The guy with the rifle believes the path is clear, but warns that infected may be inside the buildings. The guy with glasses is glad that thanks to a girl named Yina, they are progressing easily, but the leader urges not to lose vigilance. Suddenly, the guy with glasses notices that their leader is walking strangely. He asks if he is okay, and the leader admits he injured his leg in a fight with an infected soldier. Hearing that he might have torn a ligament, the guy with glasses is horrified. He reproaches the leader for telling him not to overexert himself, but the leader just brushes it off. Comparing it to escaping from North Korea, he says it's nothing and that they need to find shelter. The girl notices a red cross on the door and says something is wrong there. Suddenly, a loud bang comes from behind the door, frightening her to death. At that moment, someone calls out to them, and the trio looks up. On the roof of the building, they see a man begging for help. He explains that infected drove him up there while he was searching for supplies. Now he is trapped because the entire stairwell is crawling with monsters. According to him, another survivor simply locked him in there and ran away. The leader asks how many infected there are, and the man answers 6 or 7. The guy thinks, the cross on the door confirms his words, but that number is too many. He regretfully refuses the man, saying they are unable to help him. The leader turns to leave, but the guy with glasses shouts in horror for him to wait. The man on the roof begs them, saying his family is waiting for him at home, and he still hasn't found his daughter. The girl doubts whether they are doing the right thing, but the leader is adamant they cannot help. He firmly states they must not take risks and orders them to move on. The guy with glasses looks after them in confusion, unable to accept such a decision. He can't stand it and calls out to the leader, asking if there really is no way to help. The leader sighs heavily, not even wanting to turn around for this conversation. Finally, he turns and asks what way the guy can suggest. The guy with glasses says he has an idea and might be able to save that man. The leader looks at him skeptically, repeating his question, "What way?" The guy with glasses offers his plan, confident he can save the man. He leads them to a narrow driveway where a white van is parked. His idea is to lure the infected onto the street they just came from. Meanwhile, while the monsters are distracted, he and the girl will block the passage with the van. The guy recalls helping his father push cars as a child and is confident of success. He volunteers to be the bait since the leader's leg is injured. As soon as he returns, the leader and girl will need to quickly block the way with the vehicle. The leader doubts it will work unless the guy can outrun them. He assures them he runs well, and the leader agrees since the van perfectly blocks the narrow passage. Fortunately, the van's door is unlocked and the handbrake released, although the interior is covered in blood. But the leader asks why the guy with glasses is so eager to save a stranger. He reminds him not to sacrifice himself for others since they will gain nothing from it. The girl agrees it's too risky since they don't know if this person is good or bad. The guy with glasses recalls kind construction workers who died. He remembers bringing them food, feeling awkward but needed. One of those men's eyes were full of fatigue and gratitude. The guy explains that the man on the roof just doesn't seem bad to him. He admits that he reminds him of the dead workers and strangely his own father. The leader agrees and orders them to move the van a little to prepare the trap. The girl and guy with glasses start pushing the vehicle while the leader guides it. The guy with glasses gives the command and they prepare to push the van. With great effort, they manage to move the heavy vehicle from its place. The leader sits behind the wheel, steering the van while the others push from behind. From above, it can be seen how they slowly move the vehicle, preparing the trap. They position the van so it can quickly block the passage. The leader says he will take a shooting position, but the guy asks him not to shoot unless absolutely necessary. The guy with glasses suggests asking the man on the roof to make noise to distract the infected upstairs. The leader suddenly addresses him by his full name, and he responds in surprise. With a serious expression, the leader asks if the guy realizes the full danger of this plan. He reminds him of the risk of encountering special infected, but the guy is confident everything will be fine. The leader sternly warns that he will not risk his life for anyone except his sister. He states this is the last time they get involved in such a venture. The guy with glasses nervously swallows, realizing the seriousness of his words. The plan is set in motion. The guy must lure the infected into this deserted alley. He approaches the very door behind which the monsters are hiding. Peering into the dark passage, he shouts to attract the infected's attention. The guy quickly runs up the stairs to lure them all outside. After a moment, he runs back out and the plan begins to work. In terror, he races away, and behind him a horde of monsters bursts out of the building. "Try to catch me!" he shouts, leading the infected straight into the trap. The guy with glasses speeds past the van, drawing the crowd behind him. The leader and the girl watch as the infected chase the guy, running into the alley. The leader gives the command, and he and the girl rush to the van to act. The passage they need to block is still empty, but time is running out. They take position by the van, ready to block the way at any moment. The girl looks anxiously toward the alley, her heart pounding with fear. She whispers the guy's name in a plea, hoping he will return alive. They strain their eyes into the narrow passage, waiting for his appearance. Finally, at the end of the alley, the guy appears, running with all his might. He shouts at them to push the van immediately and block the passage. The leader and girl push the van with all their strength as the guy with glasses slips past. The vehicle tightly blocks the passage, leaving no chance for the infected. The horde of monsters crashes into the van, trapped in the narrow alley. The guy with glasses can't believe his plan worked, and the girl praises him. He shyly thanks her, still not believing in his own success. The rescued man falls to his knees, tears in his eyes, thanking them for saving him. The guy with glasses tries to help him up, saying they need to get to a safe place. The leader silently watches the scene, his face unreadable. Suddenly, he asks the man how many gas canisters he has in his bag. Sitting in a street diner, the man explains he has solar panels at home. He explains that with food supplies, it's not hard to survive, and that he searches for his daughter every day. The man asks where they are going, and the guy with glasses asks him not to be so formal. But he gratefully insists on respectful address since they saved his life. The girl explains they are trying to escape before Kanbuk's blockade, and the man worries about their safety. With sympathy, she asks about his daughter, who disappeared at the start of the chaos. He bitterly admits he left his wife and son to find her but nearly died on the way. Now the whole family waits for her return, hoping for a miracle that she will come home. The man nervously asks the leader about the rifle, and he coldly replies that he just found it. Noticing the sun is setting, the man asks where they plan to spend the night. In gratitude, he offers them to stay at his house where there is water, food, and electricity. The leader agrees to the offer, saying it will help them a lot. The guy with glasses hesitantly agrees since the leader made that decision. The man offers to help carry his things but asks them not to overdo it. The rescued man leads them down the street, saying his house is nearby. Soon they approach a large private house that looks like a real fortress. On the roof, the guy notices solar panels, as their new acquaintance said. The leader appraises the tall brick fence and sturdy steel gates. Barbed wire atop the fence convinces him this is an ideal and safe place. But suddenly the leader pulls back the bolt on his rifle, preparing for something. When asked by the man, he replies that he is just being cautious entering a stranger's home. The man nervously assures that they are not bandits, but his words sound unconvincing. Approaching the gate, he loudly shouts to his wife that he has returned home. Meanwhile, an ominous silence reigns in the dark and empty office. Suddenly, a bloody leg forcefully bursts into the room. A knife glints in the hand of the newcomer, who mutters that he barely survived again. He thinks with hatred that in this world people are scarier than the infected. Sitting down on the couch, he decides to rest a bit in this, in his opinion, cozy place. His gaze falls on a board with some inscriptions, and he looks at it with curiosity. On the board, he sees someone's name crossed out with a bloody line. Seeing this, he smirks ominously, anticipating something terrible. The stranger reads the notes on the board and understands where the group is hiding. He deciphers their plan. They intend to cross the river via Changhan Station. Meanwhile, the rescued man calls his family, announcing that he has returned home. The leader suddenly stops the guy with glasses, telling him to wait. He says he will enter the house first, and the guy with glasses agrees confusedly. As the man runs inside, the leader suspects it might be a trap. With his rifle ready, he enters the house, prepared to take it by force if necessary. Suddenly, a son's voice comes from inside the house, and the leader freezes in surprise. The family reunites in tears. The son reproaches his father for being gone so long. Watching this scene, the leader mentally apologizes for his suspicions. The leader and the guy with glasses stand silently in the house, still not fully relaxed. The rescued man introduces his family, and they tearfully thank the group for saving them. The guy with glasses shyly denies it, saying they did nothing special. The wife of the rescued man, Moon Ji-yoon, warmly offers them food and hot water. The girl asks with suspicion if they can really take a shower. The woman gently takes the girl's hands, looking at her with motherly warmth. She showers the girl with compliments, lamenting that such a beauty is at risk. Blushing, the girl thanks the woman, saying that she is also very beautiful. Suddenly saddened, the woman says that her daughter is about the same age. She painfully shares that her student daughter is missing, and the girl sympathetically confirms she has heard about it. The girl tries to comfort the woman, assuring her that her daughter is surely alive. The woman thanks her and, changing the subject, suggests they rest while she prepares food. She refuses help but offers the girl clean clothes since she resembles her daughter. Their little son timidly peeks from around the corner, cautiously watching the guests. The boy with glasses notices the child and thinks he must be in elementary school. Meanwhile, the leader sits on the couch and the boy with glasses asks how his leg is. Seeing his swollen and bandaged leg, the boy with glasses gasps in horror. The leader grimly confirms that it's better for them to stay here longer so he can recover. Despite the injury, he orders to check the house for safety, staying vigilant. And the girl joyfully takes a shower, unable to believe her luck after days of wandering. The girl enjoys the hot shower, washing away dirt and fatigue. A memory surfaces of the boy with glasses recklessly rushing forward. She thinks he's trying to act cool, which only irritates her. Acknowledging his bravery, she decides to stop him if he takes such a risk again. After the shower, a real feast awaits them. The table is laden with hot food. The whole group sits down with the family, unable to believe their good fortune. During dinner, the host asks about their plans to escape to Gangnam. The leader shares the plan. They intend to go through the tunnel of subway line 5. Hearing about line 5, the host's face suddenly changes. He anxiously says that the last time his daughter contacted him was from a station on that line. The leader recalls that Gwanaru Station is one of the last on line 5 before the Han River. He realizes this is their final destination before crossing the river. The leader suggests that if the host's daughter is alive, she might be somewhere near their route. The host anxiously confirms he has thought the same thing. He tells how he went to look for his daughter toward Gwanaru, but got stuck in a huge traffic jam. He had to abandon his car, but by then Jangan Station was already overrun by the infected. Walking was too far and he couldn't leave his family, so he was trapped. The leader asks if the roads are really that dangerous since it's almost 10 kilometers to Gwanaru. The host explains that most roads are blocked, and getting stuck on the way means certain death. The leader thoughtfully concludes that traveling by car is basically out of the question. To lighten the mood, the host suggests introductions and says he is a university professor. The boy with glasses enthusiastically picks up the idea, suggesting everyone introduce themselves. Night falls on the city, and the house feels like an island of safety in a world of chaos. The hostess offers the guests her children's rooms, but the boy with glasses politely declines so as not to inconvenience them. The woman insists that at least the girl rest in a bed since she is so exhausted. The girl glances at the boy with glasses as if seeking his approval or reaction. Embarrassed, she also refuses, saying she will stay with her friends in the living room. The boy with glasses is surprised and insists she take the chance to get a proper sleep. The girl suspiciously asks why he suddenly became so caring when he used to avoid her. He starts teasing her that she's afraid to sleep alone, and the girl bashfully pushes him out of the room. Grumbling that he annoys her, she pushes him out while he wonders what he did wrong. Everyone wishes each other good night, and the house falls silent. The boy with glasses notices that the leader even sleeps with his weapon, never relaxing for a moment. The whole group settles down for the night in the living room, covered with blankets. The girl lies with her eyes open, unable to sleep because of the flood of thoughts. The boy with glasses quietly asks if everyone is asleep, and the girl replies that she is not. She sits up and, seeing that he is also awake, suggests they talk a little. The girl curiously asks what he is so deeply thinking about. He sadly admits that he was just thinking about his mother. The boy worries if she is okay and says that this family reminded him of her. The girl looks thoughtfully away. She promises the boy to help find his mother. The boy hides his face in the blanket, touched by her words. The girl looks at him with concern. She begins a cautious conversation. The boy is surprised by her question about parents. He worries that she is not looking for her own parents. The girl meets his gaze. She decides to tell him her secret. The girl admits that her family is not quite ordinary. "Our family is just a disaster," she confesses, shocking the boy. Her father is a famous doctor, and her mother is a scientist, but they divorced, and she stayed with her father and stepmother. Memories take her back to school days, where she deliberately ignores a classmate. The boy shouts at her in anger, asking why she ignores him. She contemptuously thinks he is just pathetic and weak. In her thoughts, she already plans to set a school bully on him. The flashback continues. The girl approaches the entrance of her elite home, but immediately she catches herself thinking that she has no right to pity him. She hates coming home, especially if her stepmother is there. With a heavy sigh, she enters the apartment that feels foreign to her. Moans come from behind the door, and strange shoes are scattered in the hallway. The girl realizes with disgust that she caught her stepmother with a lover. The stepmother openly cheated on her father, who was rarely home due to hospital work. Returning to her room, the girl starts changing clothes to leave again. Suddenly, the stepmother bursts in, shouting why she came home so early. The girl boldly replies that she doesn't have to ring the doorbell of her own home. She sarcastically asks if she disturbed the stepmother's privacy with yet another man. In response to insults, the girl accuses the stepmother of hypocritical behavior. A lover comes out of the bedroom, and the stepmother coldly calls the stepdaughter the husband's bastard. The girl silently takes out her phone, ready to capture the scene. With a smirk, she asks if she should send this photo to her father. The lover panics, but the girl changes her mind, and the stepmother calmly lights a cigarette. The stepmother, former actress Choi Soo-jin, provocatively offers her to send the photo. The girl is stunned, and the stepmother assures that the father will do nothing. She maliciously claims she has the father on a hook and knows all his secrets. The stepmother explains that in case of divorce, the father will lose everything: money, hospital, and reputation. With mad laughter, she taunts the stepdaughter to demand a divorce from her father. The girl turns away, muttering "crazy," which angers the stepmother. In rage, the stepmother lunges at her with threats, but the lover tries to hold her back. As she leaves, the girl hears insults behind her back that she takes after her rotten mother. The stepmother angrily yells at her to get lost. The girl leaves, vowing never to return to this hell again. She is determined to erase this house from her life forever. In despair, she wishes the end of the world would come sooner. Later at karaoke, she detachedly reads alarming news on her phone. A friend panics, reporting an accident involving her mother, but the girl remains indifferent. Outside, her phone is flooded with emergency alerts and messages. Suddenly, her thoughts are interrupted by a piercing female scream. A panicked crowd runs past her, shouting for everyone to run. She manages to hide and, gasping, realizes she barely escaped. Even 119 doesn't answer. What is happening? I'll try calling my father. No answer. Even at a time like this. He never put me first. Mom, you're in America now. You definitely won't help. Who else can I call? The stepmother feverishly dials a number on the phone. The girl, turning away, hides her face behind her hair. A desperate scream from the stepmother is heard behind the door. Yena, open up! Yena sits on the floor in her room, begging the stepmother to leave. A tear rolls down the girl's cheek. Through her tears, she whispers, Mom. Yena hugs her knees, longing for her mother. She tells the boy that the stepmother abandoned her. Yena admits that she doesn't care what happened to her father and stepmother. Right now, all she lacks is her mother. The boy guesses that her desire to go to America was not without reason. She confesses that before leaving, she deeply hurt her mother and now doesn't dare to call her. Yena bitterly concludes that now she is completely alone. The boy listens to her with sympathy and concern. He tries to comfort her, saying she is not alone. He reminds her that she has him and their friend Hak Chul. The boy resolutely promises that they will survive together, no matter what it takes. His words touch the girl deeply. Late at night, he suggests she get some sleep. Meanwhile, bloodthirsty zombies roam the streets outside the window. Meanwhile, Hak Chul, the boy's friend, sleeps clutching a rifle. He dreams a nightmare from the past where he and his parents are threatened with harm. In the memories, he is brutally beaten because of his uncle who fled to South Korea. The tormentor gloats that his family is doomed to live in filth forever. Hak Chul suddenly wakes up sharply, his eyes burning with rage. Suddenly, he hears the sound of an approaching car. The elderly man is also alarmed, and Hak Chul decides to go check. Armed, he goes outside, fearing the noise will attract zombies. He tensely scans the dark street, trying to figure out who has arrived. The boy's gaze stops at a ladder leading to the roof. He quickly climbs it to get a better view. Once on the roof, he takes position, ready for battle. But what he sees below makes him freeze in amazement.
To be continued.